In this video, we are joined by a very special guest today. We're going to be talking about Avengers Campus. We're going to be talking about Disney Universal. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, price increases, the attendance figures, a lot to break down today on OG55. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55. Today, we are joined by a very, very special guest. First time on the channel, Tim, aka AvoidTIMtation. Tim, we've been friends a long time, man, on Twitter, and I always have a good time talking to you. And I really wanted to have you on, kind of talk Universal, talk Disney, and I'm really glad to have you on, man.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This is again my first time doing a video like this, so hopefully I don't crash and burn, which is probably likely, but we'll see what happens.
You'll do fantastic, sir. You'll do fantastic. If you could let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
So I'm on Twitter at AvoidTIMtation. And again, I talk about everything, not just theme parks, but, sports, video games, everything under the sun. So give me a follow and I'll follow you right back.
Perfect. Check him out on Twitter at AvoidTIMtation, as you can see down below. And right over here, familiar face, Mr. Dre, VashSky, host of the Freshly Squeezed show here on OG55. Dre, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, good to be back. Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it. I've, it's pretty rare that we get to talk to somebody who maybe has a preference for Universal over Disney. So it's really fascinating. So I really am grateful for you, OG, to allow me to come on and talk some shop. This is going to be really fun. If you guys want to follow me, you can go and do so right down there at VashSky. Go ahead and type that in. It should pop up right there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at Orange Grove 55 at Freshly Squeezed. Your source for juice, news, and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
There we go. See, Tim, Dre is our producer and our sound effects guy. He's got all the cool. Well, actually, I got some sound effects too. As of recently,
got the two
now. Yep. All right, so let's dive into Avengers Campus because Tim, now you're not from California, if I'm not mistaken, right? You're from out of state.
No, yeah, I live in Texas, and since me and my wife are theme park fans, we've been to Orlando several times. I've been to California a couple times. Our last trip was in December when we went to Universal and Disney.
Cool.
So yeah, and we plan to go back next year too.
Cool. So first time checking out Avengers Campus, and I'm very curious. Now I kind of know, but off of Twitter and stuff like that, like your kind of view on this, but let the audience know, first time at Avengers Campus, you're a huge Marvel guy. You love Marvel, the MCU. What was your experience with Avengers Campus? What were your kind of takeaways?
Okay, so when you first, hear about Disney building an Avengers land, of course you're thinking, big. You're thinking, top of the line attractions, especially what Universal has been doing with their Potter stuff and all that. It's like, especially with how Star Wars came out, it's like you would think that with the Marvel IP and how huge the MCU has been, and they have the access to all these characters, that they would be building the best when it comes to Avengers. So, and of course, it was open before we got there. And, you read all the, reviews of people going in, and but it's always different when you go for yourself. So, so we get there. And the first thing we saw was the Spider-Man, the animatronic show. And so we didn't know what all that entailed. So we get there and everybody's waiting and we're like, okay, let's just watch this show and see how good it is. And it's literally just the flip and then the show's over. So we stood there and wait for 20 minutes for the show to go on. And credit where it's due. The animatronic is pretty amazing, but that was all it was. So that was, strike one. And then we go into the land, and you see the area where, the Avengers, attraction is supposed to be, where Quinjet is, and there's just nothing there. And then, of course, web slingers. You see, and again, it's just like watching videos on YouTube of rides. It's not the same on YouTube, as far as going to the ride itself. So we're thinking, well, it doesn't look that great on YouTube, but it might be better when you get on it. So we got on it, and like I was saying earlier, it's just like you can't really tell what's going on. And then once you get off, your arms are tired, and then you're just thinking, what thought process went into this, especially when you compare it to the stuff that they've just done over at Star Wars. So overall, it was just disappointing, and especially with the Avengers ride. And that was something that I was hugely excited for. Like when you look at the original plans for it, and it's like, oh, this is going to be the greatest thing. Because again, I'm an attractions guy. Like whether it's Universal or Disney, I want them to build and give us, the best. And so you just think, well, if they build it, how they said they were going to build it, then the land would be, itself, and make the whole land better. But yeah, I was just overall disappointed with it. Like I said, it's just, you hear the stuff about Disney, being cheap on stuff. And that's just one of the areas where I think they should not have been cheap.
No, 100%, Tim, 100%. Because like, and you brought this up, and it's a great point. Like the money, the blank check they gave the Imagineers for Galaxy's Edge. Galaxy's Edge was missing a lot, like in terms of entertainment and things like that. But the land itself, though, they spared no expense. That thing is like crazy immersive and everything. And then Marvel, like their biggest franchise, it's like it feels more like on a shoestring budget, right?
Yeah, and Rise of the Resistance is like, I was amazed when I rode that. I got off, and my wife, we looked at each other like, did that just happen? Because I'm just amazed that there's so much going on, and everything works in sync with each other, and it's all seamless. And then you get off, and it's like, how did they do that? How did they accomplish this? Of course, there was obviously problems with it in the beginning, but just the fact that they got everything working, perfectly. And then you go over to Avengers, and it's just the complete opposite. So, yeah, I don't know what the decision making is, with some of these rides.
Yeah, what do you think, Trey?
It's interesting. I empathize with the attractions comment, right? I'm a pretty big attractions fan. It keeps you coming back for sure. I like to say, like lands, they might, let's say, they might keep your interest a little bit. Obviously, it's how the companies that put up these major attractions make their money back, because of the shops and food and everything like that. But let's be honest, attractions book the vacation packages, right? I mean, they get you down there. And so when Avengers Campus, well, we'll go back to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. We kind of saw that when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge opened, because it didn't open with Rise initially. It only opened with Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, which was okay, but I think a lot of people were waiting for that big new attraction that they knew was coming, and so they foregoed their visit until that was actually completed and open. And we saw huge crowds, huge demand for Rise when it opened. And I do agree with you that the way it works seamlessly, between the ITS shuttle, the kind of prison sequence, you break out, and the kind of chucking moment where it gets into the escape pod. I mean, it's all unbelievably impressive, and I do agree with you. Conversely, you go over to Avengers Campus, And again, it's kind of like that Galaxy's Edge situation, but even more exaggerated, because we have the Spider-Man attraction, which is kind of the new attraction that comes with this land. And it's not quite up to snuff, but then again, you look at the land itself, and that's a little bit underwhelming, right? I understand it has some spatial constraints and all that, but it's just like, it's not a lot to really sink your teeth into. So I can understand the disappointment there for sure, especially if you're coming from IOA, let's say, and you see that Marvel Superhero Island, and you see that Spider-Man. Now you're getting into some disappointing territory.
Yeah. And then it's with Galaxy's Edge. Rise wasn't open with it, but they're building it, like it was there.
Right.
You just had to wait, but Avengers, there's no Avengers e-ticket like at all. And who knows when we're going to get one at this point. And then, based on what, the D23, based on the new artwork, it's not the same as what we were originally supposed to get. So, at this point, who knows what we're going to get with that attraction.
It could be anything. I mean, and we've speculated a lot on this channel, but like the artwork is basically like, it's so vague. I mean, it could technically be a Transformers kind of ride based on that artwork. It could be like a runaway railway kind of ride. I mean, it could be just about anything. And that's the frustrating thing, is like, I just want a little something to like hang my hat on, right? It's like, okay, give us at least what kind of attraction it's going to be, right? And it's just, they don't give you anything. And it's frustrating. And here's the thing too, like with Marvel, like I understand kind of the difficulty with making a land based on the MCU, because really the core cool factor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe are the characters, not so much the physical places, because Marvel basically exists in our world. Tony Stark lives in Malibu, and a lot of the stuff in Avengers happens in like New York, right? It's kind of the characters that are the special thing of that whole universe. So I understand why it would be hard for Disney to sort of come up with a land around that, right? I get that, but like, I don't know. I think they could have done a little better though with it. I think they could have made it a little more immersive. I like this whole idea of like a tech campus. I think that's probably the best way you can sort of incorporate it into a park like DCA, with Silicon Valley, stuff like that. I get that. I just wish they would have upped it a little bit. Even like, Disneyland Paris. I mean, the Avengers Campus that opened over there is aesthetically way cooler than what we got, I think. I mean, they got some really cool stuff over there.
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
I think even with Paris, with the Avengers ride that they have out there, what did they do? They took the Aerosmith ride and reskinned it. And then again, it's like you watch it on YouTube, and it's probably going to be better when you ride it. But just looking at what it is, it's just like they just didn't spend the money that you would think they would on this property. Like, it's the biggest property that they have other than Star Wars, but I don't know. It's just like, well, let's just get something up, just to say we have an Avengers attraction. That's what it all feels like. And it's, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, Avengers will blow us away, but that part of it was disappointing.
Yeah, I hope it does. I hope this new multiverse attraction that they're planning really does blow us away. It has potential. It absolutely has potential, and I think they're kind of choosing the multiverse kind of concept because it gives Disney, like, look, a big thing with Disney, and especially with Chapes, right? It's all about like that synergy, and I think with multiverse, it kind of gives them permission to sort of throw in the new thing. So, okay, so there's a new Disney Plus show premiering. Okay, well, it's the multiverse attraction. So you can promote your new Disney Plus Marvel show in the multiverse attraction, because the multiverse attraction, I mean, the multiverse is basically kind of a catch-all for anything. I can see I can see why that is very much a desirable thing for a guy like JPEG or like the suits in Burbank. What do you think, Ray?
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about this before. I can see why they're going with the multiverse thing.
Yeah.
It offers them the premium and flexibility, both when the attraction possibly opens and into the future, right? As more MCU content is actually put out, you can incorporate those things on kind of this rolling basis. And there's major upside in that. I do agree with Tim, though. You look at the original concepts for an Avengers Campus attraction, the Quinjet attraction, as we all know it right now, and it's like, oh man, you feel like you're missing out on something there. That was going to be quite special, and this looks a little bit more traditional. We'll see. I mean, they could actually incorporate some very interesting concepts. Right, there was a trend in the theme park community between Universal and Disney of like taking ride vehicles and transforming them or attaching them to something else. We saw that a little bit with Rise of Resistance. Obviously in the drop tower element. So like it could be really, really interesting, really, really cool. It's just, it's one of those things. It's not quite what we were actually getting. Again, we'll see. But Tim, I wanted to go ahead and ask you, you said you were an attractions guy, and I do agree with you. I'm an attractions guy myself. And I think I know what you're going to say when it comes to Spider-Man on each coast. I think we can both agree the Spider-Man on the East Coast a little bit better than the West.
So what you're saying is you're not feeling Marvel mania over at DCA?
Yeah. Again, I just wish they spent the money. That's all I'm saying. Like, Spider-Man is, how old is that ride? It opened in what, 99?
Yeah.
And here we are still talking about how great that ride is and how you would think Disney that now has the Spider-Man IP would try to, he doesn't even have to try to beat it, but give us something that's on par with that, because Spider-Man is just still a fantastic ride after all these years.
I still contend too that Web Slingers, I mean, the thing holding it back a lot is that comparison. So the better decision might have been to go with a different IP in order to kind of set your expectations accordingly. I think that's another thing that plays heavily into it, because I can kind of understand it, right? Bugs Land was going away. You needed to inject some more kid-friendly attractions in this park that was losing so many. You had a small space to work with. Like it kind of checked all those boxes, and well enough, I think. It's just that character. It's like that really brings to mind a lot of things and sets a lot of expectations early. So when that, and I've talked about it before on the show, OG, when those expectations don't align, you get some friction, right? And I think that's what really hurts it. But I wanted to go in kind of a different direction here overall with Universal in general. I mean, what are some of your favorite attractions and what you're kind of looking for Disney to maybe do or duplicate?
So I think, again, Potter changed the game as far as, attractions, especially the lands that are immersive, where you walk into it and it's like shut, like when you walk through the entrance, it's shut off from the outside world. So then it looks like you're somewhere else. So I think that is top tier, and even that's like I said, that's coming from somebody who's not a huge Harry Potter fan. I just think with the areas or the IPs that Disney has, that should be the standard. Like Wizarding World should be the standard for new, attractions, and I think with Universal. With ignoring, stuff like Supercharged, it's especially with the Epic Universe coming, you're going to have, immersive lands like going all the way around that park. and even with Super Nintendo World, that's open in Japan now, it's like, again, when you walk in, you're no longer in the park. You know, you're in Super Nintendo Land. So I just think that should be the standard now. From, again, it's just me talking, like, but my opinion is like the immersive lands should be the standard. And then stuff like Spider-Man, the rides, and Transformers too. You know, I'm a big Transformers fan in general. It's like I like to feel like when I get on a ride, I like to feel like I'm a part of the action, like I'm in the middle of it. And I get that with stuff like Spider-Man and Transformers. The Mummy is still, you know, a top tier dark ride to me. I haven't been to Orlando in a few years, so stuff I haven't ridden yet, like Velocicoaster, which I'm dying to ride. I just, I just feel like, I just feel like that's the standard that should be met now for both parks, Universal and Disney.
And Tim, you bring up a great point, because like to kind of compare it to like the studio side, right? It would be like Walt Disney, like he moved away from black and white, right? He started to do sound and color, and then out of the blue started to do black and white silent cartoons again. It would be like, wait a minute, we're kind of beyond this. Like the new standard has been set, so now you have to meet that and kind of even go beyond that. So it'd be like after he did Snow White, it would be like going back to like black and white silent cartoons. Like, wait a minute, it's kind of jarring. So I think you make a good point, Tim, where it's like, okay, so we have Harry Potter, we got Wizarding World, we've got Galaxy's Edge, we got Pandora over at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
this is the new normal, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So when you go back on it, it feels a little bit like, well, what's going on, you know? So yeah, absolutely, that's a great point. Absolutely.
Yeah, and we talked about Avengers Campus and how a little underwhelming. I think that effect there, right? It's you. Like you've said, Tim, you've set the standard in so many different areas. Pandora, Wizarding World, now Super Nintendo World that's going to be opening on here on the West Coast. Like you're setting these standards, then you look at Avengers Campus and it's like doesn't quite line up with that, you know. And that's the tricky part about these kind of immersive worlds is you have to pick an IP that you'd want to actually step into that can maybe offer you not just one, but maybe 2 or 3 attractions, restaurants, all that kind of stuff. And they have it in the MCU, and not capitalizing on it. Man, that is frustrating.
And again, if it was another IP, like a lesser known IP or less popular IP, it'd probably be different. You know, people would accept it, but it's Marvel. Right. You know, it's like we just, Endgame was like the most epic experience people have in a movie theater.
Yeah.
You know, huge popularity of those characters, and that's what we got.
You're probably talking about a $20+ billion franchise at the box office, right? I mean, it's just this unbelievable juggernaut.
Yeah, as much money as if it doesn't matter how much this money they spent on it, they would have made it all back.
Yeah. And we're kind of seeing that with Cosmic Rewind, right? Apparently, that's one of the most expensive attractions ever done, and yet, I mean, it is consistently up there in terms of guest satisfaction, and wait times and so forth. Yeah, so it's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine who just went down there, and it's his new favorite Disney attraction. That ride.
Wow.
I've heard nothing but good things about it.
We have actually a friend ourselves that has recently gone down there. Our buddy George, gotta give him, balls to the wall, right? Our boy there, and apparently, he went down there. He was a big Flight of Passage fan. He thought that was the best attraction at Walt Disney World. Went on Cosmic Rewind once and was like, okay, I'm switched over. This is, my new favorite ride down here. And so it's, I mean, hugely successful, and that's just like a piece of the MCU, a small little sliver. I mean, you could just go anywhere, and I think I think Avengers Campus, it's just it was underwhelming for multiple reasons. I think you have to include that. It's just you could go anywhere in this universe. You went here, fine, but all we've seen really from it at least on the West Coast, is Mission Breakout and Web Slingers. It's like, we need a little bit more, and that's what's kind of frustrating, because you can imagine what they could do maybe even on the East Coast and Walt Disney World, but we all know that they don't have the rights. So it's all of these things. It's quite interesting. What's we know the trends, immersive worlds for sure, and apparently Epic Universe is going to feature multiples of them. Is there anything you're looking forward to particularly the most?
So I'm looking forward to Super Nintendo. So I'm a big gamer. So we do plan to go out there next year when that opens. And again, I'm not as great as Potter is, and as great as the lands are. I feel like, they're putting, with Epic Universe, we're getting another Potter land, which I'm sure will be great. But I'm excited for the Universal Monsters land that's coming. So, because I feel like, just imagine how that's going to look when that's finished. And we don't know what kind of traction we're going to get. So it's just exciting to think about the stuff that's coming for that land. And, fully fledged Super Nintendo too. It's not like, Hollywood's only getting, the Mario Kart attraction. But, the one Orlando is going to get, Mario and Yoshi and Donkey Kong and the whole shebang. So I'm very much looking forward to what we get with that. I'm not sure when they're going to announce it, but hopefully it's soon when we get like a full picture of what we're going to get with that park.
Well, it's interesting too. Like Tim, you bring up the monsters area. That's a huge opportunity for Universal, because like Universal has really done a great job with their Halloween Horror Night stuff, and I couldn't even imagine the possibilities of a monsters land, right, in Epic Universe, and how they can kind of tie that and incorporate that into their Halloween stuff. I mean, the potential is endless, dude. It's absolutely endless. I think that's gonna be very, very interesting. Now, I want to ask you, fellas, like, Tim, I'll start with you. Like, Epic Universe is coming to Florida, right? And there's been a lot of talk about, this is gonna up the ante quite a bit, like competition wise, right? Like Disney World, like, okay, take notice, we got a new Universal Resort. Like, what are your kind of like right now, like where we stand right now, like what are your kind of predictions in terms of like what the opening of Epic Universe is going to do for the Orlando area? Like, is it gonna really kind of kneecap Disney quite a bit? Like, I mean, they're coming in, and or is it gonna kind of like they say, like a rising tide, like raises all ships? Is it going to help? Like, how's that going to affect this overall theme park market out there?
So, just based on the numbers, because the number just came out for the visitors for each park, and Universal's numbers were really huge. And I get it that, that's the most guests isn't the biggest thing, or what Disney is really worried about. They want to get less people to spend more money. But I think the numbers, looking at how they look now, I think once Epic Universe opens, you got to look 5, 6, 7 years from now, what the numbers are going to look like. Because with Universal building a whole new park with everything that's new, Universal is now going to be a destination. It's not going to be people splitting, going to Orlando, doing Disney and Universal. They're trying to make it to where Universal is where you go.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have, transportation between each park. And so they're going to make it to where guests are going to want to just go there to Universal and spend a week to do both park, Universal Orlando and Epic Universe together. So I think once it opens, and then we look a few years after that, what it's going to look like, because just based on, the Disney, D23, they don't really have, they did the whole thing with Moana, or not Moana, Encanto, and all the stuff that they just threw out there that maybe we could do this or that, stuff
Yeah.
that's probably not even on the drawing board yet. So when Epic Universe opens, they're really not going to have anything new to compete with that in Orlando. So just looking at the numbers now, and of course, Magic Kingdom is on a in a space by itself. Like that's always going to be the most visited park forever.
Yeah.
So, but everything else, like the numbers are going up, and then just look at when the new park opens, they're going to be Disney's going to have to really compete to keep people from from skipping Disney altogether, because but when Epic Universe opens, it's going to be a vacation destination in itself.
Absolutely. What do you think, Trey?
Well, yeah, I can't necessarily disagree with that. We've seen these numbers here, these kind of estimates put out by TEA. Some people have issue; they take issue with those numbers just at kind of face value. And yeah, I mean, grain of salt, of course, all those kind of things. But we've heard from Brian Roberts, we've heard from the CEO of Comcast, that they are acquiring market share in ways that they've never quite done before. We can assume that trend will only increase with the opening of Epic Universe. And I've said this before, I think the center of gravity will shift. I don't necessarily think that people aren't at all going to visit Disney, but maybe they visit Disney less. Maybe they take one more day, or maybe even 2 more days from their Disney vacation in order to see everything that Epic Universe has to offer, right? And that has its own effects in terms of the annual attendance. But I'm most interested in that per cap spending. We've heard Disney talk about this and how per cap is like really, really important to them. And I do agree. I mean, if you can increase how much each guest spends, even if you do have some drop off in terms of annual attendance, then you're fine. Understanding what those ratios might be in the end. So when I think about per cap, I think, okay, that's obviously the metric that they're looking at the most. And I think about Epic Universe and how that could shift the center of gravity. What we saw from Harry Potter when it actually made its debut in 2010 was Universal was getting that kind of first bite at the apple. They were getting, the people who were visiting them first over Disney, and them spending a lot of money at Universal before they went to Disney. And so that really had some profound effects on, okay, we got to get our own kind of, let's say, first bite of the apple ourselves, our kind of people eater. So that's when you got Avatar, right? We heard that announcement in 2011, if I'm not mistaken, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So they've been competing kind of ever since, and it's kind of back and forth. Watch that per cap number after Epic Universe actually opens. A couple quarters after Epic opens, I think that's going to be the most profound thing and what Disney's looking at the most. And I do think they're going to get some per cap drop off there. I do think that center of gravity is going to shift. But do I think Disney's going to completely be, sidelined? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either, because it's Disney, and it's like there's going to be, generations and generations of kids and families going to take their kids to Disney. So it's not going to be to the point where Universal is going to overtake Disney overall. I mean, they're never going to get to that point. I do think with them making it a destination, because if you do it, if you have 2 entire parks, it makes it really tough to try to split it now. I mean, it's kind of easy to do it now, to do both. But with a whole new park, eventually it's going to be to the point where, like you were saying, they're going to cut a day off of Disney to try to do this. Right. So it's going to have a pretty nice effect. I mean, again, it's not going to overtake them, Disney, but it's going to have a pretty good effect on.
And maybe people opt to go, hey, you know what? Universal's got the new park. That's what I want to see anyway. Maybe I go and stay at the Portofino over the Contemporary again, right? Maybe they're getting Universal accommodations rather than Disney. We could see those effects. Also, too, like, hey, I set aside 5 days to go to Disney. Maybe I don't necessarily need to see Animal Kingdom again, or maybe I don't necessarily see Magic Kingdom the second day. That kind of thing. I can see that shifting some things over, and that might be enough to get Disney's attention.
I actually share a very similar opinion to both of you fellas, but a slightly different one. Like, I think the Orlando market right now is kind of getting to a point, and it'll especially be there when Epic Universe opens, where families are going to have to start making decisions. Like right now, like, and I've said this many times, but like, there's only so much vacation time like families can go on, right? So like, if you do a Walt Disney World vacation and add on the Walt Disney World, I mean the Universal stuff, I mean, you're talking like a week or more of vacation time. So now you're going to add on Epic Universe on top of all that already. So families realistically only have so much time, right? So I think the Orlando market is going to really start to get interesting, because what's going to happen is I think that it's not going to be these all-inclusive vacations where we have to do everything. I think the new vacation model is going to be more a la carte. So we'll do Epic Universe. Maybe we'll skip the studios, but we'll do Islands of Adventure. We'll do this park at Disney, that park at Disney. It's more like kind of build your own adventure kind of thing, as opposed to like what it's previously been, where it's like, oh, we're doing it all. We're doing all the Walt Disney World stuff. We're doing all the Universal stuff, because really at the end of the day, that's not going to be possible anymore. Like there's going to be cannibalization, and I think it'll occur at Disney, and I also think it'll happen at Universal, but I think that families are going to start picking and choosing, and it's going to get very interesting. The Orlando market right now is on fire. I mean, it's absolutely on fire. You guys have so many options out there in Orlando. It's not even funny. It's not even funny. So,
yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting what happens when it opens.
I know we've experienced kind of a similar thing in our vacation planning. Let's say OG, right? Our buddy George is graciously setting us up accommodations and getting us tickets because he was driven. He's like, I need you to go out there to Orlando. I'm like, okay, all right. You know what? You talked me into it.
I heard that. I heard you guys. I heard you hadn't been to Orlando yet. Like, what? How is that even possible?
So it's pretty crazy. OG, never been. I had only been once, but I mean, I was like, what, 11, 12? So it's been quite a while, as one can imagine.
Wow.
So to really rate these things, I mean, and I haven't even been to Universal Orlando at all. So there'll be a lot of new experiences for myself, OG, obviously. It's going to be really, really interesting. But doing our planning ourselves, it is one of those things where it's like, ooh, kind of want to visit that, kind of want to see that, and you can't do it all. Yeah. And we did make some room for IOA recently, right? And to do that, we had to take off a little bit of Disney in order to make that possible. So we're already kind of in that modality. Just between us theme park fans. Right. I could only imagine how the typical family might be, looking at the same options, and how that's going to get a little bit more complicated with Epic Universe. It's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, Tim, you mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, like when you came down here to Cali in December, you hit up Disneyland, and you also hit up Universal Hollywood, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah. Yeah. So we do the VIP at Hollywood because we only had 2 days. So we had to do Universal on Saturday and then Disney on Sunday. And so the VIP was the way to, make sure you're guaranteed to do the whole park in a day without any issues, which is probably my favorite. Like the VIP experience was like top notch. And of course I try to do the thing at Disney, but the price difference was a little bit, a little egregious there, so I had to skip it at Disney. But yeah, we did the VIP. We were able to do both over the weekend. But
now you've been to both Hollywood, Orlando. What are your thoughts into into that like kind of comparison? In terms of Universal, like. like Hollywood has kind of its like more like studio driven stuff. Orlando is much more theme park. But like, what are your overall thoughts on that comparison?
So Orlando's obviously, I think, obviously better because they've got, it's bigger. They got more attractions there. Hollywood, it's all built around the tour, the studio tour. So I think the issue that we've had, that people have brought up, with Universal having too many like screen-based attractions, we really noticed it at Universal Hollywood when we were doing the VIP. You skip the line, you go right on the attraction, and then you go from ride to ride to ride. So that was the only negative for me. There's a lot of rides that are screen based there. I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I felt it there when we were there. Like, oh, there's a lot of things where it's just like you put the glasses on, and but I think the VIP helped out a lot because the studio tour for the VIPs is like double, triple the length. So you go to like they let you walk around the other movie sets, and so I think that part of it they've got Orlando beat. But as far as overall park, Orlando's just they're just better, and it feels like it's a lot easier to get immersed in Orlando because it's more spread out. Again, in Hollywood, Potter feels like it's kind of stuck in there, like they kind of stuck it in. They did the best they could, with the space they had, but you can kind of feel like it's kind of nudged in there. And the same with Super Nintendo. Like they found it's like they found a little corner and like really tried to fit as much as they could in there. But that's the biggest thing. They don't have a lot of space to do stuff.
The space issue is a huge problem for that park, and like that's why I'm kind of like hoping that like Comcast, because there's been a lot of rumors in like the Hollywood trades, like, oh, Comcast is going to make a move for Warner Discovery like in a couple of years. I'm like, I kind of hope that happens because in terms of theme parks, that would really free Universal Hollywood up quite a bit because then they can offload all the studio stuff on the Hollywood, Universal Hollywood area and kind of move that over to the Warner Brothers lot, right? Because now they own Warner, and really free up Universal Hollywood just for like just pure theme park. I think that would help them out a lot. I agree with you, Tim. And it's interesting too, like the Hollywood Orlando thing is the culture, the fan cultures are so different because like in California, it's very much like Universal isn't really on the forefront, right? It's a very much a Disney kind of world out here. And then in Florida, though, Universal is like, man, it's like right there with Disney. I mean, the fan base is wild. I mean, there's a lot of that Universal fan base out there in Orlando. It's very different, in terms of like that reaction. And I think if Universal can do whatever they can do, whether it's buying Warner Brothers, whether it's finding a plot of land like in Valencia or something where they can build like a traditional park, whatever Universal can do out here in California, I think would help them greatly to kind of expand their theme park footprint quite a bit. But what do you think, Dre? What are your thoughts on that, man?
Well, obviously that's the goal, right? The goal is to expand their theme park footprint as much as possible. We've seen that before with a couple of the sound stages actually being moved from one side of the sprawling Universal property to the other. Unfortunately, I think the old Hill Valley urban downtown area was affected by that. Now you can't see the mountains like you used to, but whatever. Okay, it's fine. But those spatial constraints has actually contributed to, I think, that effect that you talk about, Tim, with the kind of screen-based attractions. If you only have so limited space, you're probably going to prioritize attractions that have a small footprint, which disproportionately I think happen to be simulator type attractions. And then you're probably going to prioritize attractions if you've already created them over in the Orlando market, probably the ones that had the highest guest surveys. And sometimes I think that's also going to be screen based, at least out there. Not always, but most frequently. So you combine those two things, and I think you have a lot of screen based stuff at Hollywood, and I think that's what creates that effect. And I noticed it myself, especially after. What is it? Probably Transformers, Despicable Me type area. When those attractions were coming in, it was like, well, okay, there's a lot of screens. There's a lot of screens, and fortunately, they're fleshing that out a little bit. We saw that with Secret Life of Pets. We also might be able to see that with the Fast and Furious roller coaster that's supposed to be coming. That looks absolutely incredible. So they're slowly broadening out. I know Mario Kart will have kind of an AR thing, but it's still AR and not actually screen based itself. They're branching out. Yeah, Dark Ride, but something different.
Yeah, exactly.
So, at least when you're putting on your glasses, it's not just going to be the next 3D thing. Again, it's going to be something a little bit different to just kind of break up that monotony, right? And so, like they're getting there. It's just they're not quite there yet. It's gonna be fascinating though to see after this Fast and Furious attraction opens how we all kind of feel about Hollywood, and if it's that true Universal gate on the West Coast that we all kind of expect, or if it's just gonna be we were just going over it the other day, the two level theme park on the hill there. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Tim,
I'm really glad that they're, the Fast and Furious thing looks like it's going to happen because they're supercharged, man. That's just, I defend Universal a lot, it's just something I don't have any, I can't say anything about it. I'm just like, the less said about it, the better is all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no, and Tim, that's a big franchise for them, So for them to get like for Fast and Furious, and we did a video about this the other day, right, Dre? Like with Theme Park Wizard,
we did.
Like for that franchise to get a proper attraction. I mean, it deserves it. I mean, that franchise has made more money for Universal, and it really does need proper representation at the theme parks.
Yeah, I said that before. It's like, Harry Potter got a blank check.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious should have gotten the same, blank check because it's like it's their biggest franchise.
Okay.
And again, I didn't hate the, the studio tour version of it. It's not its own attraction. It fits in with the tram. But the fact that they took that and just copied it in Orlando is just egregious to me. Like I don't know. It really bothers me. That's all I have to say.
That was tough. I think I was just man, there was just some Twitter account. I think it's Crazy Moments in Theme Park History or something like that, where one of the guys working at Universal Creative pled not to build Fast and Furious Supercharged. I think in Orlando specifically, and the company went forward with it anyway, and everybody regretted it. And I guess the crowd that was there, because I guess this was part of some convention, they all cheered because it was like, yeah, this was a bad idea. This should not have gone forward. And it's interesting because talking about the comparisons between Harry Potter and Fast and Furious almost gave me a little bit of Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus vibes. It's just like, like unrealized potential, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that they're at least attempting to overcome that. Again, this might be like an Intamin kind of drift type coaster.
That's cool.
And it looks incredible. It looks awesome. It is. I'll say this: it is pretty cool that Brian Roberts is so gung ho about theme parks right now. That he's willing to invest into them, willing to kind of think outside the box. Who would have thought a third gate for Universal Studios Orlando in the Orlando area in 2020, in the 2020s. I mean, that's kind of crazy when you think about it, and yet here we are.
And not even just a third gate though. Like I wouldn't even like Epic Universe. Yeah, it is technically a third gate, but it's even kind of more than that. Like it's almost like a whole separate like resort, right?
Yeah.
With like the theme park and then that. Oh man, you guys probably know what's the name of that hotel that they're gonna build over there?
I don't know the name of it. I know it's huge though.
It's like this. It's from like the sun god.
Yes,
is that what it is?
It is, and that's the thing I love about it. Like I love that. I was just gonna say and I don't know the official name, but it's like based on the sun god. I think that's a really, really cool concept. I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. I think it'll be very, very interesting. I'm very curious how that whole park is going to turn out and how it's going to affect that whole area. It's very, very interesting. And it's funny too, like Daddy Josh, right? He gets on like the D23 stage and he kind of gives like this like what if kind of thing with like, oh, what if we did Encanto? What if we did Coco? What if we did a Villain's Land? And Tim, like we like Dre and I have talked about this a lot on this channel, but that what if whole section of D23 Expo, it really did feel like they were like focus grouping the audience. Like, okay, like what do you want us to respond Epic Universe with? You want the Villain's Land? Let's test the audience reaction. You want this Encanto? Let's test the other, right? They were kind of feeling around as to what the response is going to be. And that was kind of interesting, I thought.
Yeah. I just think it's, with me being a theme park fan, it's like when D23 comes around, that's what I'm looking forward to the most, the parks panel, because it's like, well, what is coming up next? What are they doing next? And then I'm watching that and I'm thinking, it's obvious that none of this stuff is probably even on the drawing board. They did, some artwork. And then it's like, well, and you're right. I think that's what they were doing. It's like, well, depending on how loud they cheer for this, that's the one we're going to build. But again, how many years away is it?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Now, go ahead, Dre. I'm sorry.
I believe we're talking about we were talking about the hotel at the back of Epic Universe. I think it's either Helios or Apollo, something like that.
That's cool.
Got to look into it a little bit more, but that's going to be one in a range of different hotels. So I agree with you, OG. It's almost like a little mini resort out there. It's going to be really, really fascinating. Going to be really, really interesting. To your point about the what if segment, yeah, it was definitely feeling out, right? And it's kind of a reflection of, I think, Chapek's mandate or philosophy for the entire Disney organization, that we're going to be much more in line with what consumers want, right? We're going to be very guest-driven in our approach to creativity and so forth. So from that end, I think it was a little bit of a reflection of that. It's just... I mean, a lot of theme park, insiders and so forth were a little bit frustrated because it's like, we know how this game goes. This, this wasn't even blue sky stuff. How likely is this stuff even going to get built? It's looking at Disney's most recent track record, it's not very likely that it might be as fleshed out as maybe presented on screen. So it's like, man, are you disappointing audiences when you don't actually go through with these things? Some people actually took it. I remember Blog Mickey put out an article right after that saying, hey, they're going to build this. And it's like, oh, wait, hang on. they made it clear multiple times that maybe, we'll see, possibly, it's like, it just creates confusion. Yeah. There's a lot of downsides or consequences from those actions that we're seeing play out now.
No, 100%. Tim, like what were your overall thoughts? I know it's been a little while now, but since D23, but like overall thoughts in regards to that expo.
So again, like I was saying, it's just like I'm looking to see what's coming next, and so I was hoping I was concerned about the Avengers e-ticket, because then again, that's the thing I was most excited about. And then they show the new artwork, and again, like you said, it looks like, a Transformers type ride. Yeah. Again, not even not close to what we were supposed to get. And then, the blue sky stuff is just like, none of this stuff is even close. And so the Tron, we finally got a date for Tron, but that's been, how long has that been? I mean, how many years has that, been under construction? And that's another thing too. A huge thing about us going to Disney World is the train. Like, we have to do the Walt Disney World Railroad. Like, that's just one thing we do. And it's like, it's been closed for how many years now? When you think about, they took a ride that they already built overseas. Why did it take so long?
Right.
I thought it was a little disappointing because we didn't get anything that was, set in stone as to what's coming, 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah, it was a lackluster expo. Go ahead, Dre. I'm sorry.
Well, to be fair, okay, we did get an opening timeline for Tron. Okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't even get a date.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, come on, we're really kind of looking for something there, especially from the Walt Disney World side of things, and just nothing. It would have been great had they even given us a date for the Walt Disney World Railroad, just like you speak of. It's like, hey, you know what? It's coming back into station on January 21st, 2023, or something like that. They didn't even do that. Didn't even give us an opening date for Fantasmic. It's like, guys,
I mean, how long was the?
Oh, God.
How long was the train at Disneyland closed?
It wasn't
for
gone that long. I think it was like 18 months or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad.
A year or two, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, it's been 2017, 2018. I don't know what year it was. So it'll be almost 5 years that has been down.
It's crazy.
When you really think about it, it's like the train has been down for 4.5 years.
Longer. It's taken longer to bring back the train at Walt Disney World, at Magic Kingdom specifically, than it was to build out the original Transcontinental Railroad back in the mid 1800s. I mean, that's insane. Like, that is crazy. And look, one of my favorite stories recently is the one that John Hench, I guess, previously told, where they were putting in all these attractions, transferring them over from the 1964-65 World's Fair, making room for Small World, New Orleans Square, Pirates of the Caribbean, and so forth, Haunted Mansion. And so they're setting all these things up, and kind of how that park is. It's all these things are on the periphery, so they interact with the train, and they have to have it down for an extended period of time. Well, I guess there was a couple of rainstorms that actually came in, bumped out construction by a number of months, and Walt was furious because, I mean, he gave the Imagineers a mandate. Okay, if you're going to take my train down, we go and get it back up in short order. And apparently when that wasn't fulfilled, it was like, you can't do this to me. This park isn't worth what we're charging without the train. I mean, he really did believe this. And this is back in the late 1960s. And historically, I mean, if you look at the survey results at that time, before some of the bigger attractions actually came out, the Disneyland Railroad was always top 5. So to not have it for a good length of time, I mean, it's just, we know his love of trains, right? We know that Disneyland was basically just a big train set for him. Wouldn't have been possible without his backyard railroad. So, like, there was emphasis placed there. And so we go from that to Walt Disney World, who used to have another railroad that used to be the Fort Wilderness Railroad. That's been gone for quite decades now, and now we don't even have the Walt Disney World Railroad, and no opening date given. And it's just it is maddening. It is frustrating.
Yeah, some people might not care. It's the little things. Yeah.
It's these little things, like Tim, you mentioned, like your family always goes on the railroad, and I love that. I absolutely love that, and I'm the same way. Like I was ranting constantly when DCA didn't bring back the red car trolley. I was out there every day, like, oh man, they got to bring this thing back. They got to bring this thing back. I mean, those little touches, the railroad, the trolley, that's what makes Disney, right? That's a little touch, that little kinetic energy that's so important. And it's just like, it's sad to see it gone. And like you guys in Florida, like it's to be without your train for 5 years. And that's the weird thing too. Florida, I don't know what's going on with Walt Disney World. Like it takes them forever to build anything. Tron is essentially just a steel roller coaster with some really cool vehicles. It's taken them 5 years, right, to do all that. They're still not done yet. Meanwhile, Disneyland is knocking out this Mickey Minnie Runaway Railway. It's opening in January. Like, how the hell does that work out? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah, I think it's something they already built. It's not like it's a experimental, first time attraction that they're trying to work out the kinks or whatever. They've already built it. So it's like what I think a lot has to do with where it's at, Magic Kingdom. They can afford to drag their feet on an attraction there because it's Magic Kingdom. Like that's like I said before, that's going to be the most visited park on the planet forever. And I feel like if it was at another park, it probably would have been done already. And I think, if other stuff comes up, they have to like push Tron aside for a little bit. They're like, it's Magic Kingdom. They're not gonna lose any visitors if we don't open it, in time. So I think that's might be one of the reasons. I don't know, but hopefully it opens next year.
You do bring up an interesting point. I mean, and I have heard that they've been, let's say, pushing back the opening date of some of these things in order to get the balance sheet right for each subsequent quarter, right? So it's like we're gonna invest this much this quarter, this much this quarter, and so forth. Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, like when Tron was announced, and forgive me if I'm wrong, Tron was announced at the 2015 D23 Expo, 2017.
I thought it was 17.
That was 17 as well.
17.
Okay, 17. All right.
Oh my
when
goodness.
Tron was announced in 2017, Dueling Dragons at Universal Studios was still open, right? At Islands of Adventure. Wow. Okay, get this. The year that Tron is expected to open, which is 2023.
Yeah.
The Dueling Dragons replacement, Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure, will have been open for 4 years. I mean, that's how long. It's like, guys, what is going on
I don't
here?
understand it.
This is nuts. It was supposed to open for the 50th anniversary, and now it might not even make it because the 50th only runs 18 months, and that's going to be in that kind of window there.
And Hagrid was a new groundbreaking attraction, that they obviously had issues with it when it opened. Right. But there's a lot of kinks to work out. But that was an all new attraction, and they still got it done like years before Tron.
Yeah.
It's by design. Like there's obviously like some sort of financial incentive for them to kick it down. Like they obviously can build things fast when they want to build them fast, right? For some reason, I think Tim, I think you hit the nail on the head when you say like it's Magic Kingdom. It's the most visited park on the planet, and it's always going to be that way. So there's no like sense of urgency to get this thing open because hey, we're king of the hill anyway. Who gives a shit, right? Like we're gonna pack them in no matter what. So there's no sense of urgency. It's crazy.
You're right about that, Tim. It's Tron's a clone. It's a clone. They built it before. Yeah. And I mean, this is Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure. You're talking about a new Intamin Blitz coaster, 7 launches. I mean, groundbreaking stuff. It's also one of the most automated attractions ever designed, right? I mean, literally, you almost have no what is it? Ride attendant control with which to speak of. I mean, it just runs itself, kind of thing. Yeah. And it's still like, wow. I mean, it's Tron doesn't even feature a new technology like Cosmic Rewind does. It's not necessarily groundbreaking effects, and yet we're still kind of waiting for it. It is massively disappointing, and similarly, we talked about what is it, the new Avengers Campus e-ticket, right? Yeah. And how people were maybe a little bit disappointed with the kind of what was announced at D23 Expo because it felt like it felt like kind of a Transformers type attraction, looked kind of screen based, and it's like, wow, okay, this, I mean, it's kind of Transformers in 2012, and we're doing it in 2022. It doesn't have the same kind of ring to it that it did back then, you know. So it's a bunch of kind of maybe underwhelming stuff combined with stuff that takes a very long time to build. Meanwhile, you have Universal, and they're breaking new ground. It's seemingly every single year, and building a new, you know, a big new gate, as we talked about many times before. So there definitely is a juxtaposition of styles for sure going on, and it's going to be interesting to see when Disney gets this kind of fiscal numbers under control, what they do going forward.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. Tim, it was an absolute pleasure having you on today, sir. Talking Universal, talking Disney, talking Avengers Campus, the MCU. A really, really good time. You are always welcome back on the channel, Tim, to talk the parks with us. Hey, even if you want to come on and you want to talk the Disney Plus stuff, like we could talk, you know, the shows, we could talk whatever, you know. So awesome time, Tim, having you on. If you can let everyone home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
All right. Well, I appreciate you having me on. I had a blast. I always like talking about theme parks. You can follow me on Twitter, AvoidTIMtation. Again, I'll follow you back. I talk about anything under the sun, not just theme parks, but hey, like I said, you guys, I've loved your channel. Keep up with the good work. And I'll be on whenever you want me to be on.
Awesome. Well,
and
thank you,
there's no
Tim.
doubt our attractions will drive kids out of their minds.
For the attraction man, Tim. Thank you.
Nice.
Yes,
nice.
yes. And Mr. VashSky, if you can let everyone home know where they can find you on social media, my friend.
Hey, best place to find me is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. It's right down there, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, for all the
robust
discussion right there. Oh, gee, you got my drop there for me?
I do. I got some Waltz.
And there's the biggest bargain of all.
There we go. Biggest bargain.
Biggest bargain of all. Both at VashSky. The biggest bargain that the internet has ever seen is going to be at the channel you're watching right now at OrangeGo55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. There you go. A little old school right there.
Well,
it's been an honor serving with you all.
There you go. A little optimist to close us out. Thank you both, gentlemen.
Nice.
Thank you all for watching. Comment down below with your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Epic Universe, Universal versus Disney, Avengers Campus, Web Slingers, all of it. We dived into a lot of great stuff today. Really want to hear your thoughts. Comment down below. And again, thank you, Tim, for coming on today. We do appreciate it. You're always welcome back on to talk shop with us. Parks, streaming, film, whatever it is. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day.
All right.